Hey, Shalom, Akim Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I want to start off by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Chakwadash. Double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us this truth. A sincere Shalom to the hopeful elect that's out there, listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom. So I got this article pulled up earlier, and I saw this while I was at the plantation real quick. I thought, this would be interesting, and this really reflects what the majority of these modern females are after these days, man. They're after a man, or I'll say it like this, they're after a male who is willing to make himself a servant for these women, man. You know, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, has poisoned the women's minds, the women of today, especially the so-called black woman, to think that, a man ain't shit unless he's somebody in Esau's world. But you gotta understand that in order to be somebody in Esau's world, you gotta be hated of the Lord. Because ultimately there's two sides, man. You choose Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, or you choose the ways of this world, man. And the ways of this world are contrary to the scriptures, man. Sure, some brothers may bust their ass working, two jobs or whatever. Maybe you could save up some money. But, that's not going to be enough to satisfy these hoes out here, man. These hoes, they want a dude that's making six figures, man. And unless you got a really good field, which most of us brothers, we work humble jobs, all right? And even in those good fields, like, electricians, plumbers, and computer programmers, just to name a few things that usually you think of, these guys can make a lot of money. A lot of these women, y'all could even remember when Kevin Samuels was alive, he brought it out how a lot of these women would talk about, they were 300 pounds and 30 years old, talking about they deserve a man who makes 200,000 at least bare minimum, and a woman got 3 kids and shit like that. So, this is the mindset of these women, man. And we're gonna go into this article, grab some precepts. Lord's will, this be edifying to the hopeful elect. All right, so I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read this title. It says, "Woman lets man pick first date spot, so she seems humble." Right. So right there, she's already going off, because why is she pretending to be something she's not? If you want to be a gold digger, just be a gold digger. If you want to be, as they call, bougie, then be bougie. Save us some time. We ain't trying to go on a date with you. And a lot of these women will do this a lot, Akim. So you got to be careful with these bait and switch women out here. Let's get that term, bait and switch. Just so y'all know what it means. To bait and switch, we'll just say definition, right? Bait and switch, the action, generally legal, of advertising goods which are an apparent bargain with the intention of substituting inferior or more expensive goods, right? So it's like an advertisement that says something is free, and then you go there and then, it's not free, or something that, advertised that something is one way, and you go there and you try to purchase it and it's actually a whole nother thing, and that's what these women do, because they know they have that reproach, man. I made that video going into how Eve is feeling the reproach. Men don't want to deal with these women. Even a man who had the money to deal with a woman like this, he would just see her spirit and be put off by it. And basically what he would look at her as is, a woman who's just for recreational purposes. Okay, and so the women are tired of just getting used and dumped. And so now they're going for men who are quote unquote beneath them, and they're trying to act humble. But, like it says here, it backfires when they pull up to an Applebee's. He dodged a major bullet, right? So he took her to an Applebee's, which is reasonable, Fucking honestly, a first date, you really shouldn't even spend no money. We'll just go to a coffee shop. We'll just grab a drink of some sort, something basic. We're just gonna sit at a table and talk. It ain't gotta be this freaking ritual where you go to a 5-star restaurant and, or some expensive ass place, and you know what I'm saying? You know? And the funny thing is, the women of the past who were worth their weight in gold, the women back then in the ancient world, they could cook, they could clean, right? They knew how to be submissive. They knew when to be quiet. They knew how to make a man feel comfortable and at ease. Her femininity was way more powerful. Just like men today have lower testosterone, women today have lower estrogen levels, man. They have higher testosterone because that's how these elites, which ultimately the Lord set it up, but the elites, what they do is they want to homogenize the population, make men act like women and women act like men. And that's what you have. You have a world of homogenous people, and it's fucking sick. You have women out here masculine as hell, talking about how they want a man who's this, that, and the third, but then she can't even be a woman. She's basically a man with a wig asking a man to give up everything for her and do everything for her and treat her like a queen, this, that, and the third. That's, and not her specifically, but, the majority of these modern females, man. So let's get into the article real quick. It says, first dates are vital to get right. After all, you only get a chance to make a good first impression. Unfortunately, a woman's date seemingly backfired after she apparently was taken to an Applebee's. The viral clip, which was amassed 2.1 million views, consists of TikToker at her own boss looking unimpressed as an Applebee's cookie dough pie is brought out to her. As she sits across the table from the person recording on screen, text reads, when you try not to come off as bougie, so you humbly let him pick the place for your first date, and he picks Applebee's. So, what did you expect? See, she wanted to act humble, but she still wanted to have her way. So she's ultimately just being manipulative, because why? So what that tells me is why couldn't she just come out right and be like, look, I want to go here, I want to go there, because she tried that shit before, and the dude was like, nah, you crazy, I don't even know you. Why am I gonna take you to this place? I wouldn't even eat there with how expensive that shit is. So why would I take you to this whatever place she had in mind, right? I don't know what fancy place she wants to eat at, but an Applebee's, it ain't that great, but none of these restaurants are great. These restaurants are all full of toxins. It's just like a little treat you go to once in a while, It says the TikToker didn't immediately respond to the Mary Sue's request for a comment via TikTok comment and Instagram direct message. Let's keep going. It says people aren't on her side. However, it soon became clear that commenters didn't appreciate the TikToker's joke. He dodged a major bullet, one wrote. Good for him, right? See, because the tides are turning. People are seeing that this feminism and this woman worship, which that goes back to these ancient idols, man. You've got the Queen of Heaven worship, right? And that's why they have they worship the Virgin Mary in this Roman Catholicism, man. You see, which Christianity is just an extension of it, because look, Christianity supports woman worship. Okay, you go there, they say, oh, you cannot have sex unless you sign a contract with the government. But what type of contract you got to sign is one that puts the man in a worse position than the woman. It gives her all the power. That's woman worship in a nutshell. That's Queen of Heaven. That's Virgin Mary without the Virgin Mary, right? Instead, they worship a cross, which is a phallic symbol created by the ancient Roman Empire. Symbolic of what? The castration of the so-called black male, which is what? The destruction of our people. Okay, that's why the scriptures say, cursed is he that hangs on a tree, because you could think back to the Roman Empire. It was a punishment for slaves. All right, we know the majority of the slaves were so-called black men, right? Israelites at the time. Okay, but getting back into it, it says he dodged a major bullet, one wrote. Good for him. Since when did it become embarrassing to eat at normal restaurants? A second asked. Right, it ain't nothing crazy, because she herself, she would go eat there. So what's wrong with a man bringing her there, right? Because she doesn't want a man. She wants a slave. She wants a man who will pander to her. You see, but what does the scriptures say about that, man? Let me get some precepts out real quick. Salakia. This is 1 Corinthians 11 and verse 9. It says, neither was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man, right? Because you can think back, that was the natural order of things. The Lord said, it is not good for man to be alone. So he made a what? He made a helpmeet for him, right? Let's get that. Let's get that helpmeet real quick. I want to go into a definition. See, that's the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 8. We'll pull it up here so y'all can see it. Genesis 2, verse 8. It says, Salakia, that's not it. Here, let's type it in. Help meet. Here we go. 2:18. It says, and Yahweh power said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. Okay, so the Lord made the woman for the man, and what did he call her? He called her a helpmeet. H5 828. Right there. And what does it mean? Help, succor, one who helps. So the woman was created for the man to help him. How is she helping him? By putting in a position. He doesn't even know who she is. She could be crazy. She could be a psycho. But I'm supposed to spend $200 up front just to talk to you? All right? That's madness, man. That's why a lot of these women are single and they're going to stay single, man. It says succor, assistance and support in times of hardship and distress. Right? These women ought to know that we're under the oppressor, Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. These women should be, if you want a man, you should be willing to work around his budget. That will put peace of mind in him. Be compassionate instead of being like, let's go to a fancy restaurant. Be like, yeah, I'll go anywhere. We go anywhere. Hell, or how about go to the house and cook at the house? Offer to do that. Offer to or just you go wherever you want, but you pay your half, he pays his half until you get to know each other, man. Of course, the man eventually will support the woman. That's what our goal is. If we get a woman, we want to take care of her if we can. Sometimes it's not possible because we're in Esau's world. So now, she got to have a job, I got to have a job, but really, the woman will still fulfill her purpose and the man his. Because the man we created to serve Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, right? And the woman was created to serve us. So so that could be done. Okay, but see, the woman's head isn't in the wrong spot. Because of the serpent, Esau, man. He's got our woman thinking all type of madness. Thinking that, these men ain't shit. A man should do this. A man should make a first impression. This, that, and the third. And then they, at the same time, in the same breath, why can't we find a man? Because this backwards relationship will never work, man. What does the scripture say? He that hates me loves death. Speaking about wisdom, you want to go against the scriptures, you're just gonna create death on the earth. Okay. This is Proverbs 8:36. He that sinneth against me wrongeth his own soul. All they that hate me love death, right? If you hate wisdom, you hate the Lord. Okay? Because you don't want to submit yourself to a man. You don't want to dedicate yourself to a man. Try to be a helper for a man. That's your purpose as the weaker vessel. To serve a man. Okay, we're all here to serve somebody. And the way a woman serves the Lord is by being a helpmeet to her man. Okay. And so, this is why we're seeing a population decline, not just here in America, but worldwide, because the natural order of things is out of course, because the Israelites are not in power. Us so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, we're the rightful rulers of the earth. We're supposed to be in power, but because we went off and worshipped idols, the Lord is chastising us through slavery to these heathens. Okay, and in this process, we're seeing what a world ran through wickedness looks like. And this is what it looks like, man. It looks terrible for everybody, even for the woman, man. The woman looks like she's in her glory, but she's not, man. Our women are bald-headed. Our women are single, depressed. They're on all type of pills. They're eating Cheetos, Fritos, Doritos, energy drinks just to go to work, getting 2-3 hours of sleep, caking on the makeup that's filled with pork and all types of chemicals that's causing her to go mad. Okay, our women are just completely gone, man. And all life on earth has been polluted, man. I was just watching Elder Yashawamba's video talking about, he was going into an account in Wisdom of Solomon and talking about how it relates to Genesis, the 6th chapter, going back to how, during the times of Noah, the world was similar to how it is now. It was the pre-flood era then, and now we're in the pre-fire era, because guess what? The Lord is getting ready to judge this place. And so since the Lord is getting ready to judge this place, just like in the ancient world, you could make the comparison and see how the same way the world was continually evil, the thought of everyone was wicked continually. The animals were even polluted, man. You could see how they're doing it today by how they're poisoning the animals, releasing GMO mosquitoes and GMO salmon into the ocean, and all types of hybrid animals they're creating. These devils have polluted all life on earth. That's why the Lord is going to have to destroy America with fire. That's why the Lord back then, he destroyed it all with water and killed even the animals, because the animals were polluted, man, by this wicked devil, man. The men, the women, everybody was polluted. The only ones that weren't was the ones that got saved back then. Noah, his sons and their wives, right? So, yeah, man, this is a sick place, and it just goes to show, like, yeah, you Akim out there, don't even worry, man. These women ain't even worth it, bro. You can't please a woman like this. Trying to please a woman like this is like trying to please Esau. You see what Esau is doing, man. The more power he gets, the more insatiable he becomes. It's like a bottomless pit. It's like you can fill it up. You can't fill it up. You put stuff in it, and then there's still more room. It's the same with this woman, man. You take her to a fancy restaurant. She's going to be looking at the dude across the table who looks fancier than you. You see? And then once she gets bored of you, she's going to hop over to the next one, and to the next one, and to the next one, man. Until she's on the internet crying about how men ain't shit. Because the dudes that she get, they don't treat her serious. Like, how could you take someone like this serious, bro? I don't know you, and you already looking at me wrong, looking at me funny because I didn't wine and dine you enough. Like, I didn't even get the pussy yet, so why would I wine and dine you? I don't know you. In the ancient world, and really in the Bible, sex is marriage. Okay, and that's how you get to know somebody. We don't get to know each other by you digging into my wallet and taking all the money, taking me for what I'm worth. You know what I'm saying? Seeing if I'm a gentleman and all that bullshit, whatever that means. Right? Let's keep going in this article. It says, let's see, where were we? We'll just start from here. It says, similarly, a fourth snipe, people think they're so much better than what they are. Yeah, these women, they're full of pride, man. They're haughty, they're on pedestals, man, because that's how Esau have put them up there to destroy the family unit. It says in a fifth said, the comments are not what she expected, but I'm glad she's getting humble, right? And it's going to take a lot more humbling than just people shaming her on the internet. She's still going to do it, but it's going to take more, man. It's going to take a catastrophic collapse of this society and economy. And when nobody will pander to these women, when they getting treated like basically like booties out here, because that's what they're gonna be. And when Jacob's Trouble goes full blast, man, these women are just gonna be looked at like another resource, right? Just a piece of ass, you know. And they looked at like that now, but you know what I'm saying is, when all hell breaks loose, man, people are gonna want to eat. You know, people are gonna be breaking into each other's houses, stealing food. You know, gold, whatever they got, they're gonna be. It's just gonna be chaos, man. It's gonna be wars, civil wars, all type of things, man. These women are just gonna be getting passed around, man, and it's already happening with ICE. You see these women getting grabbed up, raped in the concentration camps. All right, it's only gonna get worse, man, and it's gonna be when there's no more law enforcement, when there's no more, when society ceases to function as a whole. You know, these women are gonna understand when there's nothing to prop them up on that pedestal anymore. They're gonna understand their worth on that day. You know, they're gonna wish they got with that brother who just wanted to take her to McDonald's real quick. They're gonna wish, because see, they were looking for gold and silver and things that don't matter. But what does the scriptures say, man? You know, let's get a few precepts on that. You know, it's not about a man's, and ultimately we live in a wicked world. The woman shouldn't even be picking her own partners anyway. That should be left up to her father, who has discernment. Okay, which let's get that. Let's see here. This is Sirach 7:25. It says, "Marry thy daughter, and so shalt thou have performed a weighty matter." Right? This is a very important matter, to give your daughter to the right man. Okay, not to just give her to a guy that's good looking and has money. Right? That's not gonna lead nowhere, man. That's carnal. That's on the outside. All right. A lot of those men end up dead. That's why these women, they get together with guys that end up in jail, or guys that end up dead on the street, right? Or they end up with guys that have so many options, they don't give a shit about this girl, man. You know, men that are ultimately of this world, man. Men that don't give a shit, you know. And that's not to say you can't have multiple wives. You absolutely can, all right? But a lot of these guys that these women are attracted to have a satanic spirit on them. And these are guys that will just basically pop these women, act like they love them, and then leave, you know. And, it's like, ultimately, you should have got with a man that was on your level, Eve. But you going for guys that is just, way up there. It's like, no, man, you this is why you need the father to choose, man. Because women are like Esau, in that Esau is never satisfied, man. It's not enough to have somebody that's 6 foot, whatever. They gotta go more. Oh, it's not enough to have a guy that's got 6 figures. They always chasing the next best thing, man. And that's another problem with this society, man. But it says, "Marry thy daughter, and so shalt thou have performed a weighty matter, but give her to a man of understanding." You see, it didn't say give her to a man that she finds attractive. Okay, it didn't say give her to a man that is 6 feet tall. Give her to a man that is somebody in Esau's world. No, give her to a man of understanding, man. All right, and then now, let's talk about understanding. Let's talk about wisdom, man. This is Proverbs 8:11. "For wisdom is better than rubies." You hear that, Eve? Wisdom, the true wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of this Bible is more important than having a bunch of money that you got from a job, or a bunch of money from your own business, or a bunch of money because you're rich and famous. See, these things that Eve will drool over is pointless, man. Money will not save in the day of evil, man. This is Proverbs 8 and 11. For wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not to be compared to it. Right? So if you women out there listening, you Eves listening, run across a man of the Lord, a man of Yahweh Ba'ashem Awashai who has this truth, that's the equivalent, and I'm going to say this in a very simple way so you can understand. That's the equivalent of marrying a billionaire. Now ultimately, if we want to be more accurate, it's more than a billionaire, man. Because like we just read, wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things that may be desired are not to be compared to it, man. This truth is greater than all riches, man. This truth is going to lead to eternal life, man. And if you get with that man now, and the Lord has set him up to be a king in the world to come, all right, just imagine the orders of magnitude of wealth you women are going to have in the kingdom, man. And it's not just about wealth, man. Ultimately, it's about salvation, which, you don't want to die in that third world war when America goes nuclear. You don't want to be incinerated here with Esau, right? But you Eves that are going after these men because they're bougie and, oh, he got to be able to maintain me, this, that, and the third, this woman worship shit. You ultimately going to be, destroyed here in America. And you're going to learn real quick that you shouldn't have chosen based off of outward appearances, based off of, oh, how much money does this guy have? What can I get out of him? What can I squeeze out of him? That's how Esau looks at us. How can I squeeze more energy out of this person and fuck them over and take more money for them? That's good business. That's good business in Esau's world. Raise the price and lower the quality of the product so they continue to make profit both ways, right? Shrinkflation. When you buy a bag of chips and it's all air, but the price keeps going up and the amount of chips keeps going down and down and down. It's the same thing these women are doing. There's something called wholeflation. Y'all brothers out there ever heard of wholeflation? Let's look it up. Wholeflation. AI overview. Wholeflation is a slang term and internet concept often associated with red pill, MGTOW men, blah, 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 or men's free communities. It is used to describe a perceived increase in the effort or cost required for men to date or find partners in the modern dating markets. And there's more to it. Here we go. Let's go to the Urban Dictionary. Keeping it simple, man. It says, wholeflation, the concept of men having to work 20 times harder than their grandfathers did for women 20 times worse than what their grandmothers were. Boom. Wholeflation, man. It's simple economics. You take this woman on a date, spend your whole paycheck on her. She may not even give you the box. And if she does, it's a stinky ass snatch that's been ran through. Okay? And you could think back to your grandfather's time. He might have married your grandmother as a virgin. And all he had to do was buy her an ice cream. Or maybe he didn't even have to spend one penny. Maybe he just went up to her and said, I think you're beautiful. And then they started a conversation, and next thing you know, boom. Whatever. It don't matter. I heard stories like that. My grandparents, that's how they got together. My grandpa just went up to my mom, or not my mom, my grandma, and just asked her to be his girlfriend. And that was it. Next thing you know, they got married. They had, they had a bunch of kids, and which again, marriage is sex, not signing a contract with Esau. Not telling any of you brothers out there to sign a contract. I'm gonna say it like this: do not sign any contracts with Esau, man. As far as marriage goes, do not get married on paper. All right, if you're gonna have a woman, just have a woman. You don't gotta bring the government into your business. All right. Let's see what else we got. Is it normal to go to Applebee's on dates? It's definitely not unheard of to go to Applebee's on dates. There's nothing wrong with going to Applebee's on a date. A recent viral TikTok on the official Applebee's account, food chain invited users to shoot their shot. Yeah, of course they want to make money. But yeah, ain't nothing wrong with going to Applebee's for a date. Nothing wrong at all. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know, and this shows you how materialistic these women are. They flock to the powers of this world, which is Esau, and they see how Esau is. Esau is all about materialism, money, and so that's what our women have become. Just these materialistic money vampires. Okay. This is Psalms 82:5. It says, they know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course, right? The roles have been reversed. The roles between men and women. All right. It says, let's see. I want to grab another one real quick. Oh, this is a good one here. This is Sirach 9 and verse 2. It says, give not thy soul unto a woman to set her foot upon thy substance. That's right, man. Don't fall so in love with these women, and catch so much feelings that you end up giving up, a lot of money to them. Okay, nothing wrong with treating your woman with balance, but you don't go overboard, man. Don't do it. Verse 3, meet not with a harlot, lest thou fall into her snares, which is traps. And this woman right here is nothing but a harlot. Okay, you could tell by her eyelids. You could tell by the fake up. All the time she took doing her hair. She took all this time to look pretty, but her attitude stinks. You see, she took care of the outside, but not the inside, right? All right? Don't deal with these women, Akim. And we got to practice what we preach as far as, when I say outward appearance don't matter, right? Hey, that's something that we can apply as well as men, because it ain't always the baddest bitch that's the best partner, man, or the best wife. I'll say it like that. A good wife is a woman that let me get that precept real quick. Let me get this. Sirach 25 and 21. Stumble not at the beauty of a woman, and desire her not for pleasure. Right? Don't pick a woman just because she's fine. Pick a woman who is acting as a woman, who is able to play that feminine role without a problem, without giving you an attitude. Is this woman able to bring peace to your life? Is this woman able to cook and clean for you? Just things that I would want a woman to do. Cook, clean. Give me a massage when I get home from work. Don't be nagging at me. Don't be talking to me crazy. Don't be doing this and that. And of course, we're going to have to compromise in this world, because in this wicked ass world, to some extent, we're going to have to compromise, because these women, they don't have it. They don't have the ability to be righteous on that level, to be the best pillar of rest for a man. Now, a lot of these Akwath out here that are, doing what they're supposed to, they put in the effort, and if you find a woman who's putting in the effort and she's willing to work with you, hey, that's a good one right there. So go with that one, work with that. Or just be single, like Paul said, focus on the Lord. All right, let's see. I'm going to grab one more and we'll close out. This is Ecclesiastes 7 and 26. And I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart, right, her mind, is snares and nets, right? She already set a trap right here for this man. It says, woman lets man pick the first date spot so that she seems humble, right? She already set a trap. She's not humble, but she played the part like she was humble to see if she could catch him in her trap with that good old bait and switch, catch his heart and then switch around and turn into a gold digger real quick. See, that's a fucking demon. That's a woman to stay away from. It says, and I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and her hands as bands, right? Bands are like, you could think of like when they tie your hands with ropes or with handcuffs. All right? That's why in the world, a married man is in America here is called a man that's cuffed. It's like, oh, you're cuffed, man. You can't go out with us tonight and have fun. Oh, you're cuffed because your wife is at home, right? You see? Because that's how it is. These women rule over us in this time, man. It's wicked as all hell. So you got to find you a woman that's, you know, decent at least. A woman that knows her role and knows how to submit. Because this woman right here, I will tell you right now, she will not submit unless you're like a billionaire. That's the only way she'll submit. All right, and we know the men of the Lord are not billionaires on this side, man. Who's the billionaires on this side? The guys that are on the Epstein files. So maybe that's what she would want. She would want a guy that's on the Epstein files, so she could just go through those files and find her a man that's bougie, just like her, if that's what she wants, right? And all these women, man, they all come in the same spirit, man. Eve, all the way down to Issachar, all the way, even the heathen women, man. Even the heathen women ain't shit. Some of these heathen women are in some order, but even then, man, they're all wicked. All right, it says back in Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 26, it continues, whoso pleaseth the Most High shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. That's right. So, hey, you brothers out there that's single, the Lord is protecting you from these demons. You got to understand, man, we have a completely different mindset to most people in this world. A lot of us don't get along with most men in this world, let alone these wicked ass females, man. All right, these people out here in general, they drain my energy. I'd rather be alone or with brothers, okay? So, don't think of it as a surprising thing that, these women hate you for whatever reason. You might not even be a bad looking man. It's just, their spirit puts you off, and the spirits, they just can't really mingle. All right. So, that's why I always say, man, hey, if you need to get your rocks off, get your rocks off. But you don't got to make every woman here your wifey, man. Just pop them and drop them. A lot of these women out here, they harlots anyway. And it's not a sin to sleep with a prostitute, right? As the scriptures have, you could read about that. And these women are just modern day prostitutes, but they're less honest. They're dishonest prostitutes, because what they do is they try to act. As you can see, they put on an act, then they switch up on you, So, if you just want to get some box, skip these women like this and just go see a prostitute. It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. You're in and out. It's faster. You're not going to have someone trying to lie on you, trying to catch you in a trap, trying to marry you on paper and then take half your shit. You know what I'm saying? So, you brothers that are single, the Lord is preserving you from these demons. You brothers that are single and maybe you're burning, you're going through it, whatever. Hey, look at it like you're being protected, man, because honestly, like we just read, I'm going to read it again, man. This is powerful. Ecclesiastes 7:26, I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, right? Her mind is traps. Imagine you get with a woman like this. You was down bad and you said, man, I wish I could just, deal with a woman, right? But then you get with them and then she ends up doing all this shit, causing you stress. Let's say you work a 12-hour shift, you go home, and you say, well, why didn't you cook something? She's like, why didn't you take your ass to McDonald's? That's what drive-thrus is for, right? Y'all seen them TikTok videos, man. Hey, I'm sure some of us have been through some of that bullshit, and that's why we just, some of us don't deal, and the other ones that do deal, we got women that's halfway decent. But, that's what the Lord's protecting you from, man. Because ultimately, you get with this woman, she could cause you some heartache. Maybe one day you walk in pissed off from your job. Maybe your boss fired you. You walk in and she's, getting pounded by some dude. And you snap, and next thing you know, you're in jail for like 40 years, whatever. That's what these women bring, man. These women bring destruction and chaos. And the scripture says, but the sinner shall be taken by right. So the Lord, and that's why there's a scripture that goes into that, man. It says, a wicked woman is given, right? Let's get that real quick. This is Sirach 26:23. A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man, but a godly woman is given to him that feareth the Most High, feareth the Lord, right? So, if you single, man, the Lord is just protecting you. If you're an Akim in this truth, because if the Lord saw you as wicked, guess what? He would just give you a wicked ass woman. And yeah, you'll be getting boxed, but at the cost of what? At the cost of your life. You see? So, and if you got a wicked woman right now, pray to the Lord to save you from that, and, humble yourself and change your wicked ways, man, because chances are if you with a wicked woman, there's something wicked about you, right? As the scriptures say right there. So, definitely something to consider, and, ask the Lord to help you, man. And this all goes back to repentance, humility. King David talked about that in the Psalms, Lord, seek if there's any evil way in me, something along them lines, right? Very roughly paraphrased. But, just being sincere, man. Are you in this truth for real, or are you just watching for entertainment? Are you in this truth for real, or is it just trendy? If you're in this truth for real, then you ask the Lord, Lord, is there anything wicked in me? Lord, help me to change. Help me to do better for you, Lord. Salakia, Lord, forgive me for my secret sins. Sins we commit, we don't even know we're committing. And you really are sincere like that, the Lord will take that wicked woman out of your life and give you a righteous woman, or no woman at all. Sometimes it's better not to have a woman, man, because these women cause stress. Even the ones that are decent, it's like holding down another job. It's extra work. And some of us, man, we're worn out. We ain't got no energy to deal with a woman on top of a job, on top of, dealing with Esau, because we always got to deal with this devil. So yeah, man, that's pretty much it, Akim. Just another reason to be weary of these females. And, you notice the reproach is everywhere, man. People in the comments, maybe like a decade ago, people would have been talking about, oh, well, that guy, he just doesn't care. He's not good enough. You go, girl. You're a queen, blah, blah, blah. Now you got everybody roasting this bitch. And I bet you there's even women in the comments roasting her, because women have jumped on the bandwagon with this whole, the whole red pill community, what they call it. They call it like the manosphere or whatever, where men expose the delusions and the evil that these modern women do, for lack of a better word. Well, yeah, now you got women podcasters going on there and saying how women ain't shit and women need to get their ass in order and blah, 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 so on and so forth. So, yeah, man, hey, this is prophecy. The Lord is exposing these women, exposing Esau, exposing, everything, man. And it's a beautiful time to be alive, man. We're prophetic times. But, yeah, don't let this, don't worry about these women, Akim. We gonna get ours. The Lord is gonna have us eat very soon, man. Isaiah 4:1 is right around the corner. So with that, I want to finish by giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Chakodash, double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us this truth. A sincere shalom to the hopeful elect that's out there listening, learning, and or teaching in truth and sincerity. Shalom wa, abba ball. Shalom.